to be talking about how to read very fast. And our guest speaker is going to be Mr. Douglas Gray. And a little bit about the housekeeping is that if you have any questions related to the speed reading, make sure that you go to urock365.com and register your questions over there, and Douglas will get back to you. I also want to thank Mr. Pat Javdan, broker of record of United Realty of Canada, and Dr. Alex Ahanchin, General Manager of United Realty of Canada, for being our sponsors and gracious to give us the support and funding for this channel of webinar series. Also, I'd like to thank our sponsor, Mr. Douglas Gray, and who is also our speaker, who is the author of What the Financial Institutions Are Not Telling You. And if you want to get a copy of this book, please register on urock365.com, and we will make sure that we can get you a copy of this book in the mail. And I want to give you a little bit about a background about Mr. Douglas Gray. He's the author, investor, and now he's retired and living in Ottawa. And he's formerly a mortgage broker with the company called Direct Mortgages, and he's retired now. And that is a little bit about Mr. Douglas's background. And this gentleman is a wealth of knowledge. And I've had the privilege of working with Mr. Douglas Gray for the last 1 year. And every time I talk to him, I learn something new from him. So now I'm going to switch over to the PowerPoint presentation of Mr. Douglas Gray. So then we can start the speed reading. Okay, Douglas, you're on.
Oh, okay, then. So I see that obviously the first slide here, the magic of speed reading. And I too want to add my thanks to both Jerry and Pat. Jerry has been very instrumental in introducing me to Pat and getting this seminar going. And I think it's tremendously important when you consider reading and improving your knowledge and improving your ability to speed up your reading ability. So our brains do consist of over 100 billion neutrons, and with practice, they can be trained and retrained to improve our ability. So the next slide. So Jerry, you've already basically gone through the introduction, and just to add to who I am, I developed the acronym for SMART, and I talk about SMART goals. So the acronym basically is: the S stands for specific, the M stands for measurable, and the A stands for achievable, the R for realistic, the T for time controlled. Now, every participant in this seminar receives not only a copy of the slide presentation, but a Word document outlining the whole program we're talking about. And so obviously, you will have the opportunity to study and restudy the program, and then also ask any questions that you may have both toward the end of today's presentation and at any time in the future. Next. So obviously, all of the materials that are supplied with this webinar and document are in English. These skills can be applied in any language, but obviously my mother tongue is English, and this presentation is being presented in English. And probably the biggest requirement is your willingness to break old habits and push yourself with a desire to succeed, to learn new skills. Next. So here's an important question. How much could you get done if your reading ability was 5 times better than it is today? Motor skills, we'll be talking about your brain's nervous system and controlling your muscle skills through a series of exercises, which we are providing in the written material, that actually will achieve the improvements that you're looking for. Next. So I just want to talk a little bit about habits because, you know, habits and attitudes are, a lot of people are mixed up in terms of definition of the two. And basically, a habit is of the body. It's something that we're doing physically with our own body, whereas an attitude is more to do with your mind. But can we change habits? Yes, we can. We probably all know people that have quit smoking. We can also change our attitude, but it takes the same type of perseverance. It's not something that can be done because attitudes are developed over time through our process of growing up, becoming an adult, going to work, etc. So attitudes, we have to be very specific about wanting to change and developing a goal, if you like, to make some of these changes. Next. Okay, so eye movement becomes critically important in this whole exercise. Typically, our eyes are jumping around. And the first thing that we want to develop in an exercise is to expand the focus of what you are seeing with your eyes and notice letters over a greater area of space and not having to be physically moving your eyes to accomplish this. And again, we will have a question period toward the end, so you'll have lots of time to develop a better understanding for this. Can we move on to the next one, Jerry?
Slide number 7.
Number 7, you're on here now. So the whole idea here is to develop what we were just talking about in terms of broadening the space that you're able to see. So if you can read faster, if you train your eyes to move to specific page spaces on the page, and this exercise will help you to do that. You want to move ahead, Jerry? So I think it's important here to bear in mind too that these changes don't necessarily occur overnight. And typically a learning cycle is 9 months, as I'm stating here, and it comes through repetition. You know, we all learn to write, and people develop better skills at handwriting by more practice. And I don't even know with our smartphones and computers whether anybody is bothering with writing letters today, but writing is a skill that develops over a long period of time with practice and reading. And the important thing about this program is your comprehension, really retaining the material that you have learned. And this is where it is going to occur over a relatively longer period of time. It's not going to happen overnight. Next. So I make the comment here, which I think is a excellent to bear in mind, giver's gain, and it does touch on the whole principle of and philosophy of karma. What goes around comes around. Oh, are we hearing okay?
Yes,
Are
yes.
we hearing okay?
Yes, yes.
So that no, I'm getting a
echo. I hear echo.
Go ahead, Doug.
Okay, so okay, good. Yeah, I was getting feedback or an echo there. And I still appear to be.
Okay, now talk, Doug. Doug, go ahead.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so we've basically come to the last of the visual part of the slide presentation. So we can either go back over specific points, or if anybody has any questions at this time, that would be a good time to join in.
Doug, I wanted to, maybe we can go to the next slide. We can talk about some of the exercises.
Yes, okay, okay.
Okay, Doug.
Okay, so the principle here is to focus on the, improve your ability to focus on the four, and by working through these exercises, you will find that you're able to improve. And we recommend 10 times moving on this first one, from the car to the flower to the coin to the butterfly, but with the vision of keeping your eyes focused towards the center of that X, and but looking first at the car, the flower, the coin, the butterfly, in that particular order. And in the next one, if you want to move ahead, Jerry, is just taking a little bit further, but going from the car to the coin, the flower, and the butterfly, and repeat this for 10 cycles.
The next one.
Yes. Okay, so here we are moving to actual letters, which comes closer to the actual reading, that you'd be looking more likely at letters. But again, by looking at that center dot and developing an ability to read all of the letters without really moving your eyes. So it expands, and the exercise here is to really expand what you are seeing when you look at a particular point. So we're looking at the dot, and I have the ability to read A, F, C, D, H, G, B, E without moving my eyes from the focus on the dot. Does everybody follow what we mean on this?
I'm pretty sure.
So
I'm pretty sure they are following.
Yeah, go to the next one then.
Okay.
Now I see a thumbs up. It's
Okay.
always a good sign.
All right.
So now it becomes a little more, not complicated, but a little expands the exercise with more letters. And again, the function is to keep your eye basically focused at the dot, the center point, and see everything. And you can try it the other way. If we normally looked at a page like this, we would move from the B to the re to the me to the do, and you'd see, you could follow your eyes moving. And the exercise is to develop the ability to focus on the dot, but again, be able to read that whole cluster of letters. And that's the part that each of these exercises we recommend a minimum of 10 times for starting points. But again, bearing in mind, everybody will receive copies of these slides and the written document. And so this is something that can be practiced repeatedly and should be over a long period of time. We spoke about the learning cycle of 9 months. Next. So here, again, it just the same concept, but expands to the next level. Seeing more letters.
Next.
Okay.
I guess this is the simplistic format.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so the two-step method,
the whole idea here, Doug, is that the dot is missing from the slide, but the whole idea is to keep your eyes on the center of that, in the center, and then read the whole thing without moving your eyes.
yeah, I'm sorry, say that again. The idea being?
The idea being here in this slide is that the dot is missing, right? But the whole idea is to look at the center dot, the invisible dot, and then read the whole sentence.
Yeah, I was just, okay, yeah, that's right, yeah. And as I say on the bottom there, it is possible. You know, and the purpose in the exercise is, again, expanding that range of what you're looking at from one central point. So if you were to read that third line down, to look at every line twice only, you know, the concept, as we're going through books and with a speed reading focus, is we actually read the book 3 times, and this is explained in the document information that you'll receive, but each of the times is a different purpose of reading through the book. And that's where the comprehension, at the end, you've read the book in a third of the time that you would normally take, but your comprehension is higher. Okay,
Yep. Next.
next. So again, the whole exercise is to get us back into actually reading a book and reading it with more comprehension. And by the way, in my book on what the financial institutions aren't telling you is not intended in any way to be a criticism toward, and I was always involved in the financial sector for my whole working career. And so I'm not negative towards the banks at all, but I want to emphasize certain areas where, you know, for example, I have a whole chapter in there on the credit bureau. And many of you in real estate would know that probably a room full of people that you're meeting with, most of them have no idea what their credit score is. So I try to impart knowledge, and I developed the speed reading program to improve your ability to comprehend, but to absorb and read more literature than has been the case before. Is there anything else you'd like to add to this particular slide, Jerry?
Well, the important thing, Doug, maybe you can explain, you know, in the book why we have drawn those 2 lines, and the whole goal is to, you know, focus on the center of each sentence and read. Maybe you want to explain a little bit more.
Well, and again, that is the whole purpose in the exercises that we just went through quickly, is to expand that area that you're actually seeing. And by focusing on the center, by looking at the center of the line, it gives you a better ability to do just that and see more of entirely what is on the line. And eventually the goal is almost to move toward the center of the book and see everything in one frame. And again, this is accomplished through a series of exercises over and extending over a period of time. Okay.
Okay, perfect. Perfect, Doug. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to unmute everybody. So if anybody has questions, right, they can ask us the questions. I'm going to unmute everybody. So does anybody have any questions? Hi, Harbinder, do you have any questions? Harbinder, Pat, do you have any questions?
Well, can you hear me?
Yes.
I got a question. It's not regarding to a speed reading, but because Douglas have been in business, finance, mortgage, and this kind of business. I'd like to know his view about the situation we are in right now. What is your view, Doug? Because it's an opportunity I can ask this question. I cannot hear Doug. Doug has to unmute his audio.
Okay, just hold on. Let me unmute Doug.
I think he has to manually do it because.
Doug,
Yeah.
can you hear us?
Can you hear me now? I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So did you get Pat's question?
Yes, I did. And obviously that's an excellent question, and it keeps us current and relevant with what exactly is going on in our lives today. And I know from my own looking into it and experiences is that the effect on the real estate industry in particular has been dramatic. And realtors are doing virtual open house tours and one thing and another. And so I did some research on the whole pandemic, and I found that there have been they're in almost 100-year cycles going back to 1620. We had 1620, 1720, 1820, 1920, and now 2020. And these viruses always seem to come from the East, and from China specifically is not uncommon. And they used to take very longer periods of time following what was referred to as the Silk Road. And silk was one of the first exports out of China, and it moved from the east to the west, but they would take weeks or months in some cases to move through the European continent, whereas now, obviously, the travel is overnight, so it's happening much more quickly. And the position that it puts us in is this lockdown, which we're all experiencing, and isolation. And isolation has its own negative impact on people, and people begin to feel isolated and develop a more negative opinion. And so my position on where we are now is that we have to move. The concern really is the economic impact could become worse than the virus. And when I say that, I don't want to downplay how serious the virus is, but the economic impact, I think, is what we all have to move ahead and get out of this total shutdown mode. And so if it is in some cases through more visual aids, such as joining in on a Skype call and that type of thing, it's still getting connected with your contacts and developing business practices. Does that help your question, Pat?
Yeah. I got another question if nobody else has a question. Jerry, is anybody else has a question?
No, go ahead, Pat.
Okay. I read about this economic situation, and there was a British economist. His name was John Maynard Keynes. And can you hear me?
Yes.
I can hear.
Yeah. And he suggested for the recession or depression or situation that we are in right now, he suggested government should pump money into economy, give money to people. I don't know how this one for the long term will work. Does it work for long term, or is it going to temporary? Do you have any view on that?
Well, the government has begun to throw money at the problem. One of our long-term problems is debt as a country, and Canada is further in debt than any other country in the world. Yeah. And I believe that the debt and individuals' debt is something that we must be focused on. And people seem to have moved away from the concept of wanting to save up for something. They seem to have moved into a theory of, well, if I want it, I'll buy it, I'll put it on my credit card, and eventually the debt will go away. But it doesn't work that way. And so student loan debt is higher than it's ever been, not only here in Canada, but in North America. And so I guess what I'm trying to get at here is that we have to somehow put our focus back on the economy and earning. And I saw a statistic where, restaurants are a perfect example where people obviously have stopped, and can't go to restaurants, and to try to in some way subsidize these restaurants, you'd be up into the billions of dollars. So I don't think we can achieve it by the government throwing money at it. I think it's something that, and the economy is going to take a while to turn back on, because even if everything was opened up tomorrow morning, how quickly are you going to start going back out to restaurants, Pat? It's not going to happen overnight necessarily. So I'm not sure that there is specifically an answer to the situation. I know that I think the time is to focus on the economic impact and to retain the cautionary isolation practices that have begun. And I know in Toronto specifically, they have started fining people that are breaking the rules too. And so they were issuing warnings. But I think that we have to, as individuals, focus on the economic impact on this entire situation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great question. Yeah.
Thank you. Jerry, how long we have time? How long we have? Jerry, can you hear me?
Jerry, Pat's asking how much time is left?
Yeah, 2 more minutes.
Oh,
okay.
So you want to, if you allow me, I want to talk about Wednesday and Friday.
Yes, go ahead, Pat.
Okay, for Wednesday, for people who are here right now, I recommend join tonight at 8 p.m. Baker Real Estate, they're talking about state of pre-construction condominium market is extremely important tonight at 8. Also, Wednesday, we have Rob Vivian, one of the top real estate coaches in Canada. So he's going to be at 8 p.m. Wednesday. And Friday, 8 p.m., we're going to have Kathleen Black. She's one of the top real estate agent in Canada also. So don't forget, tonight 8 p.m., Wednesday 8 p.m., Friday 8 p.m. to join our webinars. Extremely important.
Well, thank you very much, everybody. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much, Doug, for your exercises for speed reading. And I'm pretty sure, we have lots of time right now, and we should actually make use of these times available right now, as part of, as business owners, we should start studying and learning something also, allocating time to learn and read. And, and that's the best way, by using Doug's strategy is the best time to practice and utilize it. And like Doug said, everybody who's on this webinar call and who registered, we will make sure that you get a copy of the slides and also a copy of Doug's notes. So then you can actually use these notes for yourself and help you to improve your speed reading. So
and Jerry,
thank you.
I'd certainly like you to send me the links to the next ones that are coming up, because knowledge is always valuable and I like to increase my knowledge.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, and have a good afternoon. And we will see you in the evening at 8 o'clock today.